You are making the world a better place by listening to the Joy of Living podcast. This is your guide to achieving a more purposeful, powerful, and positive life. Join Barry Shore in unlocking the best version of you and becoming happier, healthier, and wealthier. And now, here's your ambassador of joy, Barry Shore.
Good day, beautiful, bountiful, beloved, immortal beings, and good-looking people. Remember, you're good-looking because you're always looking for and finding the good, and you found good in abundance because you tuned in consciously and conscientiously to the Joy of Living with your humble host, Barry Shore, known as the Ambassador of Joy. Notice I didn't say the Ambassador of Joy. The Ambassador of Joy, and we are going to be speaking about one of the most joyous subjects in the world today. You're going to meet an amazing woman, Charlotte, and she's going to speak to you about something. It will really stir your imagination and stir your world, so get ready. So as you know, the reason that you keep telling your family and friends to come in and listen to the podcast. And thank God we're blessed to have over 500,000 people listening. And we have usually 15, 20,000 new people every week. We'll be probably at 1 million people by the end of this year. And thank you so much. So just share this with 5 people. You want to share it with 50 or 100, that's great. But everybody share with at least 5 people. We'll touch 2.5 million people around the world just with this show. This is a very important topic today. So you know that you're here because we discussed the 3 fundamentals of life. And these 3 fundamentals of life, when you internalize, utilize, and leverage them, will enable you to be happier, healthier, and wealthier. Who doesn't want that? The 3 fundamentals of life are: number 1, life, your life has purpose. You lead a purpose-driven life. Number 2 happens, in this case, good number 2. You go mad. Now, MAD is a wonderful acronym that stands for make a difference. Lead a purpose-driven life and make a difference in the world. And the 3rd fundamental is to uncover the power and the secrets of everyday words and terms. Simple example, this show is carried over the internet. Ask anybody, what does www stand for? And everybody will tell you it has to do with the internet. Factually speaking, they're correct. However, in our world, the world of the positive, purposeful, powerful, and pleasant, www stands for what a wonderful world. And what is a word, right? WHATA. And of course, a big thank you, tip of the hat to Satchmo, Louis Armstrong, for enabling that song, What a Wonderful World, to go viral and not just touch tens of millions or hundreds of millions, but billions of people on the planet. Whenever you hear the opening bars of What a Wonderful World, what do you do right away? You can't help but you smile. Now, smile is one of the most important words you could ever internalize, utilize, and leverage in your life, because smile stands for seeing miracles in life every day. Seeing miracles in life every day. Now, I got to tell you something. I am privileged to speak to millions of people every month, and I even do in-person events. I don't travel outside of my area where I live now in Henderson, Nevada. Recently, I spoke to a group of 1,127 people. I'm telling the story about Barry Shore, and I'm talking about seeing miracles in life every day. And some people raise their hand and say, hey, Barry Shore, I've been up for hours, I haven't seen any miracles. And I ask them, are you here? Can you hear? Can you stand still? I can't do that. Can you walk? I can barely do that. You have water to drink, you have food to eat, you have a place to sleep, family, you have friends. Every single one of those is a miracle. What's the proof? Simple proof. 1 million people didn't get out of bed this morning. You know why? They died. By definition, if you're watching or listening, you have an obligation to live life to the full, to live exuberantly. Let me tell you a quick story. It's about me. Imagine, if you can, I'm standing up in the morning, completely healthy and hearty, able to leap tall buildings in a single bound. And in the evening, I'm in the hospital, totally, completely paralyzed from my neck down. And it was not because of an automobile accident. It wasn't a spinal injury. It was a rare disease that took over my body and caused me to be what's called a quadriplegic. Nothing in my body moved my neck down. I could only communicate by blinking my eyes. I was 144 days in the hospital. I was in a hospital bed in my own home for 2 years. I couldn't move. 4 years in a wheelchair. I had braces on both my legs, my hips, and my ankles. That was progress. Thank God today I am able to be vertical ambulatory with the help of a 7-foot walking one. So I'm a triped, not a biped. Can't walk up a stair by myself. Can't walk up a curb by myself. I have help 12 hours a day, 7 days a week. You hear my voice. Positive, purposeful, powerful, and pleasant because of one word. One word, smile. Now I got to tell you, my 8-year-old niece comes over to me a few weeks ago and she says, Uncle Barry, can we spell smile S-M-I-E-L? I was thinking about it. Smile, smile. Sounds the same. Why not? I asked her how come. She says, because then it would stand for seeing miracles in everyday life out of the mouth of an 8-year-old. But what was she doing? She was creating the kind of world she wants to live in. Now, CREATE is a fabulous acronym. It stands for causing, rethinking, enabling all to excel. You are going to be involved in rethinking in the next few minutes when we bring on amazing Charlotte. Now, rethinking is really a shift in perspective, just a slight shift. Now, I've been working with people for more than 4.5 decades, and I can tell you, most people I work with, in the beginning, they drop the F in shift, and the other stuff happens. You've got to be effing careful with your F's. So you want to shift your perspective just a little bit, and then you'll be able to internalize, utilize, and leverage the 6 most important words you'll ever know. And these are choice, not chance, determines your destiny. How you choose to respond in any given situation will determine your path in life and your trajectory. And before we bring on wonderful Dr. Grinberg, I want to warn her and all the new people listening that I do use a lot of 4-letter words. I even use the 4-letter FU word, and I do it because of the shock value and it's fun. Now, of course, the 4-letter words that we use, because we live in the world of the positive, purposeful, powerful, and pleasant, are love, life, hope, play, pray, free, give, swim. And the 4-letter FU word is fun. Fun, that's right. F-U, capital N, capital N. So after the show, you see your family and friends, they have a twinkle in your eye, smile on your face, point your finger, say, F you, everybody. You got to add right away, capital N, capital N. You got their attention, and now you can share with them the great insights that you learn, because they say, where'd you get that? They listen, very sure. I heard Dr. Charlotte Grinberg. Wait till you hear this. So before we bring on amazing Charlotte, I want to urge everybody to use the 2 most powerful words in the English language 3 times a day from now and the rest of your life. And by doing so, you'll be happier, healthier, and wealthier. And these 2 words are thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank stands for to harmonize and nurture kindness. KIND is a fabulous acronym that stands for keep inspiring noble deeds. I can't think of anybody right now that inspires noble deeds. I don't want to introduce you to more than wonderful, amazing, fabulous Charlotte Grinberg. Charlotte, please say hello to 517,922 people around the world.
Hi, everyone.
She's low-key because she's going to be speaking about a very low-key, important, dynamic, powerful subject. So let's just jump right in. However, I just want to tell everybody, if I started telling you all the things that Charlotte has accomplished in her mere 33 years upon this earth, it would take the rest of the show. So I'm just going to give you 3 data points. Number 1, she's the founder of something called To Life. That's right, not TWO, TO. Or TOO, To Life, L-I-F-E. So right there, you have an idea of something interesting. Number 2 is that she's prolific in her writing. She's also very thoughtful. And the most important thing about her is that she's happily married and the mother of 5 children at the moment. So those are data points that you want to keep in mind, because our topic today, you have to use one word. The overarching topic is da-da, 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 death.
Death.
Death. Not deaf, but death. D-E-A-T-H. Death. So with that as a great introduction, Charlotte, let's just jump right in and talk about, I want to share with you one thing that you're obviously familiar with. As you know, I love words, and I love doing things with words. If you spell death, D-E-A-T-H, and you rearrange them, they spell a very interesting word. Hated. Because death, unfortunately, is hated by most people. I'm making that as a statement. Let's use that as a jumping off point. Is it true? And if it is, well, why? Because it's a natural process of life.
Yeah, I definitely think it's true. Like it feels like just the most taboo subject that exists. It's what I've done professionally, and it's a very lonely space professionally, because I think in my personal life, like a lot of people struggle to just engage with me about what I do for work. They really just have a tough time with it. And then even when people have the experiences with death and dying, it's usually a very lonely experience. So I think there's just a lot of loneliness and isolation and fear, shame, guilt, a lot of negative emotions associated with what I would think is like a very normal and natural process of life.
So I want to unpack some of what you just said. And I find it fascinating. And as you said it, I can believe it's true. It's almost as if it was a word when I was growing up. People got cooties. I don't know. Okay, if you don't know that word, everybody, you can look it up, Google it or whatever, or Perplexity or Chat GPT. Cooties. You touch something, you get, people almost don't want to be with you, even professionals, because you represent the subject that is sort of off limits. I don't want to think about it. I don't want to even talk about it. And yet it is the most natural process of life that every single human being will experience. That's fair to say, isn't it?
100%. Yeah.
That's a given.
Yeah.
Everybody experienced birth, if you're here, and you will experience the other end. So why is death so hated? Is it because it's feared?
I think that's a big part of it. It's something if you want to frame it in terms of having a lot of gratitude, it's something we don't experience as often as our ancestors likely did. And so it's because it's an experience that only happens like maybe a few times in someone's life. And oftentimes when they're not until much later in life, there's a lot of just unknown and uncertainty and lack of exposure or experience with it. I think it's not part of our like common day-to-day practice. And that starts with kids' books. So when I read books to like my children, there's so many euphemisms that are used for when we reference like somebody's dying, all the way from childhood stories, like Simba, his dad like disappeared, or he went away forever.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Dad disappeared?
Yeah, they'll use that a lot, like in kids' books. Like, so oftentimes, like even with my children, I have to.
Let's use Bambi. What happens in Bambi? The father gets shot and killed. Does it say that?
I don't know if they say it as explicitly. Like a lot of times, if you actually look at kids' books, they'll oftentimes use euphemisms. And so I replace that with my children. Like with my children, I'm very like concrete that like dying happens. I explain what dying is, how objective, that's when your body stops, like your heart stops, your lungs stop. You don't need food or water anymore. You die, you physically die. And that even in itself is like a very novel and like radical concept to interact with children that way. So I think it starts with like how we parent and how do we talk to children about it. And then I think it's important, like just in our day-to-day interactions, to try to, again, normalize these conversations as much as possible. I think it's like the lack of exposure and the lack of comfort with these conversations.
Let's unpack those two things. We live in today's environment. The year is 2025. So there'll be people watching this 50 years from now, the year 2075, 2125. They'll be talking about who are those interesting people 100 years ago. Okay. We live in a world that is very antiseptic in every aspect of life, even giving birth oftentimes. Now, you have a wonderful background. I love reading about you because you did something, and it's so apropos to where you are now, that you were a doula. You may even still be a doula. Now, for those of you who don't know, doula is not D-O-O-L-A. I guess you could spell it that way. If you want to be sophisticated, you'll say it's a D-H-O-U-L-A. But look up the word. It essentially is a midwife. Is that fair to say?
So it's not someone who has medical expertise who's like actually helping deliver the baby like a midwife would, but it's somebody who provides physical, spiritual, and emotional support during the pregnancy, labor, and postpartum experience. So you don't go to like professional school, like a midwife has to go to like 5 years of professional school.
I mean, there's no DU, doula U.
There is like a training program and certification program, but it's just a different, it's like a different support person in the room.
Okay.
Than a midwife.
But however, you personally became a doula of your own accord at a very, what we'll call a young age. Is that correct?
Yeah, at age 16. I think I was one of like the youngest childbirth doulas in America.
So age 16 is young, tender, I don't think that you knew anybody in your world that had given birth at the age of 16. So therefore, you were a support person, emotionally, spiritually, physically, for people who were older, let's say in their 20s, even late 20s. And you were able to do it, and they were able to succeed because you were there present. I'm using something right now, being very spiritual. You were present in the moments. And that presence of you gave strength to somebody else who was going through, let's be blunt, a very difficult process. Giving birth is a difficult process. Am I correct?
Absolutely.
And now you use that same power, I'm using that term purposely, power to be involved in the other end of the life spectrum. In the same way, you're a doula of death, we'll call it. Is that?
Definitely, yeah. I think so having exposure to childbirth and that part of the life cycle, again, that like I would not have otherwise experienced until I myself gave birth myself, allowed me to, one, just learn about the power of being so physically and emotionally and spiritually present with somebody, that can make actually a very profound impact on the experience. And that when you really lean into all of the emotions and the physicality of it, you can develop a really close bond with that person, and also just learn a lot about yourself and be really inspired to live a really meaningful life, because it's such a period of transition and inspiration and just physical and mental accomplishment. I also then like knew so much more about childbirth when I experienced my own births. So I could experience my own births in a much better, more nuanced, like expert situation, because I had so many experiences before that. I think a lot of women, when they have their first birth, again, there's a lot of negative emotions attached to it. Like they're afraid, or they're scared, or they're fearful, or they're worried because there's so much unfamiliarity. Whereas with me, I had seen like hundreds of women give birth. So I felt very empowered and knowledgeable and confident in my own body.
You were present at hundreds of births before you gave birth?
Oh, definitely. Between being a doula and also being a medical student and rotating like in obstetrics.
So you were an active doula, and then in the medical world. Okay, so again, let's be blunt. I'm a guy. I don't think there is a male doula, is there?
I've never met one, to be honest. Yeah.
I can hear that. It's a different energy.
Yeah.
So you were involved in the birthing process hundreds of times. When did you begin to think about the other end of the life cycle, the death experience?
Yeah. So I actually, when I was in medical school, I thought I was going to go into obstetrics. Like I really loved birth and that period of transition, like into motherhood, womanhood, partnership. Like it can be like the best day of most people's lives, or a very transformative time of people's lives. When I was in medical school, a few things happened. One is that I saw a woman die during childbirth. And it was I saw a woman die during childbirth.
By the way, I was going to ask you two parts to that. It's hard for me to say the words. Did you ever experience a woman dying, and did you ever experience a baby dying?
Yeah. So one of the first deaths I experienced, like saw when I was a medical student, was a woman dying during childbirth. And everybody around me just had such a hard time. Like the OBGYN team, the father of the baby and spouse to this woman, just everybody, like it was just completely soul crushing to them. And I think I was shocked that I was pretty calm, and I just really leaned into the emotions of the situation. Like I felt like I could still connect to this man who had just found out that, he would have to raise this child by himself. And when all the healthcare professionals around me were just like completely shutting down, like they were completely disconnected from their emotions and they were just trying to move on to the next thing, I felt like I could sit still with the deep sadness of what was happening. And so that was like a clue to me that I felt like I had this I don't know what else to call it, but like superpower within the medical system to guide people through this sort of difficult passage that exists of dying.
Okay. On this remarkable note, don't go away, because I am honored and humbled to tell you that there's more Charlotte on the other side of these commercials. We have people that love the show. They sponsor. We wouldn't have known. We didn't think they're worthy of your time and attention. We'll be right back with this amazing being named Charlotte Grinberg and death and life right after this brief message. Don't go away.
Hello, skincare connoisseurs. If you think you have tried everything in skincare, you are going to love what I am about to tell you. I'm pharmacist Benjamin I. Fuchs. I'm a dermatology pharmacist, and what I've discovered in my compounding pharmacy after decades of working with patients with skin traumas and skin diseases is the missing link in skincare is topical essential nutrition. And because of this missing link, we're not maximizing the potential of topical skincare. We're leaving skin beauty and skin health on the table. And that's why I formulated my Truth Treatments. Listen, the skin's an organ. It needs and wants and craves nutrients, vitamins, minerals, amino acids, fatty acids, and plant-derived minerals, and now it can get them in super high concentrations in my Truth Treatments. Originally formulated for dermatologists and their patients, now they're available to you. Check them out today at truthtreatments.com, and I know you are going to love the truth.
Good day, beautiful, bountiful, beloved immortal beings, and good-looking people. Maybe you're good-looking because you're always looking for and finding the good. Our cup runneth over with good. Her name is Charlotte Grinberg. She's a doctor. She is involved in the most powerful aspect of life, which is the passage from the physical being into the spiritual being. Okay, it's an easy way to say death. D-E-A-T-H. Now, they pointed out in the first segment, use the same letters and it spells hated. Why is death hated? And I think part of what we touched on in the first section, we'll go a little deeper now, is that oftentimes, especially in today's world, we as a society, speaking not just America, this is throughout the world, obviously, not obvious, but we have people listening from all over the world in other cultures and societies where still there are intergenerational people living closer together. So maybe you see life and death cycles more often. In the United States, death is far removed from the regular day-to-day of anybody living, and especially people that are in their, let's say, later years, 40s, 50s, 60s, and may have parents or older relatives that are in their 70s, 80s, 90s. Still in all, death is kept at arm's length. Is that fair to say, Charlotte?
Absolutely.
People do that purposely because they don't want to think about it. Is it true?
Yeah.
So what can we do in our time together to sort of create the bridge? We'll call it the bridge of life. That you can think about living life to the full and think about your passage in with exuberance.
Yeah, I was sharing the experiences I was having in medical school that sort of inspired me to focus on end-of-life care. And the second one that I wanted to share was that I was pregnant with my first child when I was in medical school, and I was 24 at the time, very healthy, had not experienced any death really personally in my own life. And then the baby died when I was 18 weeks pregnant, so pretty far along in the pregnancy.
You had a stillbirth?
So I had a late-term miscarriage, it's called.
Late-term miscarriage.
Yeah.
Okay, this is very powerful what you're just sharing right now. So I'm going to say something to the audience that my wife will slap me if she ever heard this, so she probably won't hear this session. We were married for 10 years, didn't have any children. We were able to have a son in the 11th year through a unique situation, not by her giving birth, through surrogacy, so leave it aside. My wife had 2 late-term miscarriages, devastating, emotionally. She wasn't as young as you. Doesn't matter. I don't think the age matters as much. Is that not devastating?
Yes. And I think I navigated that again with this like sense of like calm and acceptance. And it was really the first time where it's like, I felt like tragedy happened to other people and not to me. And then all of a sudden, like something very tragic did happen to me that was very unexpected. But it's like, I realized like that's how people think about death. Like it's something that happens to other people, but it's like not going to happen to me.
Right.
And so I really like accepted that this was like my fate and my reality. And I feel like I grieved that miscarriage really well because I was able to talk about it and think about it and connect with my loved ones and accept the fact that death happens. And so again, that's sort of these two experiences of seeing the woman die during childbirth and then having my own sort of pregnancy loss and navigating that and seeing, again, a lot of the pain and the sadness, but also a lot of growth and connection made me realize that like sort of focusing on end of life care would be very meaningful professionally. And so that's when I pivoted to sort of have my career focus on people who are dying.
So as I said in my introduction, the ability to, as we say, the 6 most important words you'll ever learn are choice, not chance, determines your destiny. How you choose to respond in any given situation. You chose in this unique situation, which is extremely, let's be blunt, painful on the physical level, painful on the conscious mental level, painful spiritually. Able to use that and choose to say, what is I have my path now. I know my path now in the world as a 24-year-old, a 25-year-old. Hello, some people don't get till they're 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, right?
Yeah.
And now you're saying, I'm going to say this, and please take this the right way. I think some people meet you and may think of you as Dr. Death.
I get that a lot. Yeah, it makes me sad because I'm a very joyful and happy person. I think the people who know me would actually say I'm like the most optimistic, happy, loving, like positive person. And I credit that to like actually all of the death that I see, because it has developed a sense of immense like gratitude, again, for just like the smallest things. And just like you were saying, like just be able to hear and talk and be and exist. I feel so grateful. So that's part of it. And then the second part of it is that I think we just have to get better as people to hold two things true at once. That, you know, there can be a lot of sadness and heartbreak and disappointment in illness or the dying process. And we can also be very positive and joyful and happy during that time as well too. And so I'm just trying to get better at having people hold like two truths at once, in order to try to like have more complex and nuanced emotions when they go through life experiences.
So one of the acronyms, we love words and acronyms, we have for the word joy is called Journey of You. Life is a journey. And everybody knows intellectually, sometimes even emotionally, certainly spiritually, if you get close enough, that process called birth, life, and death, 3 different processes, by the way. One that you're not in control of, which is birth, life that you have some control in the sense that you get to choose, and then the other one, death, which you don't get to choose. However, you can choose how you enter into it. And I'm happy to say I love you write well, you speak well, you present well. Anybody who's watching, not just listening, you're seeing somebody who is a beacon of life. I mean, that's who Charlotte is. She literally lights up her existence and such like that. And I like using these words for her because she uses them herself. The idea of being present, of having purpose, of using inspiration, and also closure. So I'd like to talk about closure because there is nothing more final than death for everybody. the person who has passed on, by definition, has some circle. Preparing that circle for the closure would seem to me a very important part of the death process. Is that correct?
Absolutely. And it's so devastating to me how little closure there exists for people, because if you spend a lifetime sort of not thinking about or talking openly about death, then when you enter that experience, it feels very chaotic. And it feels very stressful, and you're focusing on things like the medical parts of it and the logistics parts of it, right? You're thinking about like all the paperwork that wasn't done, all the financial planning that wasn't done, all of the logistics and arrangements. And so things become very technical, like people become hyper-focused on like the medical aspect of it and the financial and logistics aspects of it. And they don't connect with the deeper emotional part of what's going on. And they don't know how to talk about it, and they don't know how to connect about it. And so every day I feel like I see missed opportunities for family members and people to really create and have that sense of closure happen, because everybody's sort of shut down and gone into fight or flight chaos mode. When you do see it done well, when you see families that have spent like a lifetime talking about this very openly, and they know what their wishes are, and they just are able to have like unbelievably honest and open conversations with one another, there's this opportunity for it's so beautiful. I know it's really hard to talk about like beauty when you're talking about death.
I just was going to interrupt you for a moment. I want everybody to understand that Charlotte chooses her words consciously and purposely. That when one experiences literally the beauty of death in the context that you're mentioning, in a family setting, then it does take on a beauty that doesn't exist in the rest of life.
Yeah, I mean, people are forming memories and connections that will stay with them for the rest of their life, and not just stay with them, but probably be the catalyst for major life changes for themselves.
I was hoping you were going to say that. Thank you.
Yeah.
That is so beautiful. And in my own life, I'm privileged to know, I'm 76 chronologically. I'm privileged to know a number of people that are in their 90s, fully functional in their 90s, with children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren, people who are appreciative of life. The G word, gratitude. That is what is their driving force in life. And since you mentioned it, I'm just going to, we'll talk about it a little more. I'd like you to express a little more, is that when that happens, then all the other pieces, which are, by the way, let's be blunt, very important, the medical and the technical, the logistical, the money. Money is almost as taboo a subject as death is, because money can tear apart a family as much as a death will. Except
Absolutely.
The dead person's gone. Now, the estate, let's make it up and say it's a large estate. Anything over $10 million is a large estate. And now you have people, unfortunately, doing what can come almost naturally to people, which is to squabble and fight over something called money. And the death, instead of being a catalyst for how can we live better, what can we do to be in harmony, creates, unfortunately, dissolution. So have you seen both sides of that?
Absolutely, yeah. And because of the way that our society currently exists and the way that death is so taboo, I see the sad family circumstances much more often than the ones of closure and connection. But when I do see those, I get so much like gratitude and hope. And I tell those families, like, you guys have given each other like a gift that will, again, I really truly believe, like, positively impact the rest of your lives and your children and everybody who's watching. Like, people are paying attention and absorbing to what a good and beautiful death can look like.
Whew. This is, again, the subject, the word itself. When people hear the word death, they sometimes say it, death, as opposed to death, because death I'll give you a simple example. Everybody loves a garden, right? No question. You have sunflowers, you have roses, you have flowers growing. So you say, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to cut some flowers, put them in a vase, put them in the house, and everybody's around the table for the meal for the weekend. And people looking and say, well, they're so beautiful. Now, nobody thinks like this, saying, you know what you just did? I'm looking at death on the table, right?
Yeah.
You just cut the flowers.
Yeah.
So by definition, you're looking at something dying.
Yeah.
But we don't look at that. Now we're looking at that and saying, look how beautiful.
Yeah.
That's how I have been privileged to be taught to approach this process of life. That it is that the cut flower syndrome, that, okay, they're beautiful and they'll shrivel up and go away. That's okay. In the time that they're there, they're giving off radiance and beauty, as you said.
And I'm not trying to downplay like the experience. It's tough, right? It's very physical. It's very emotional. It can be exhausting and like a roller coaster. And there can be a lot of uncertainty and a lot of sadness. There can be a lot of crying but I'm saying that like we can learn and grow so much from that, right? Like just how I feel about natural childbirth, like it's painful, right? Like there's contractions. I cried through my labors. It was intense. Like, and there were moments of doubt and uncertainty, but because I felt so loved and so supportive, and I felt like I was going through this transformative moment, there was again a lot of like beauty and growth within that.
I love the T word. See, a lot of people come to this podcast because they want information. And I tell people, there's so much information on the internet. It's information overload. You can get it everywhere. That's not what this podcast is about. Some people come for inspiration. Wow, Barry's so wonderful. And the guest is so great. Okay, that goes away after you watch. This podcast is about the T word, transformation. Really, this show is not about Charlotte, as wonderful as she is, or about Barry, great guy. It's about you, you becoming the best you possible. Everything we do is about what you just said, Charlotte, the T word. And as you mentioned, and I love it in your writings, that you say that you look at death as a teacher and a mirror and a catalyst. You use the word. And it is so true, isn't it? Part of what happens in the death experience is that in our society today, where people are encouraged to think, well, you can live to 300 if you just eat this little mushroom or take this pill and exercise the right way. Well, you're only 99 and you're going already? How could that be? So we're blindsided by the potential promise that the medical world holds out of, well, you can live forever. And that interferes with our mind, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I want to live a long time. Like I care a lot about that. I take good care. I take good care of myself. Like I think it's super important to exercise every day, to eat very well, to live a very healthy and active life. And I think that's very important and very inspiring. At the same time, I'm very internally, I truly believe that I have a peaceful acceptance of death and the dying process, again, through just sheer exposure of seeing thousands of people die and being able to so comfortably talk about it and think about it. But I really value life. And I think we can do both. I think people are so afraid that if they start thinking about and talking about death, that they're going to usher it in, that they're going to hasten that process or make it happen. And that makes me sad, because I think people are missing out, sort of having a deeper, maybe perhaps the deepest motivation for trying to live as meaningful a life as possible.
So I want to mention two things. One is that because it's very topical, and the other because I think you'll find it fun. So the topical one is we just lost a remarkable being at the age of 31. His name is Charlie Kirk. One of the most robust, energetic, positive, purposeful, powerful, pleasant beings. I actually had the opportunity of meeting him. Gone in an instant. Happily married. 2 children under the age of 3, and one on the way. They will never know him. except from videos and things like that. The grieving process for his family and the country is deep. However, as you said, it's becoming a catalyst for greatness. And there's a magnificent phrase in the Bible, in a wonderful book. The book is called Ecclesiastes, which of course not one person in 10,000 can spell. But anyway, in Ecclesiastes chapter 7, verse 1, the phrase in English, I'm translating from the Hebrew, the phrase in English is, a good name is more valuable than fine perfume, and the day of death better than the day of birth. What an amazing idea. Because, right, when you live well, what happens? You have a great name. You are not hated. You're lauded. Look what this person accomplished. Whether you were the mother of 5 or 10 or none, but your life was purposeful and positive and pleasant. And therefore, your day of passing was certainly better than your day of coming in. Your day of coming in, you're in swaddling. What are you? You're nothing, right? You're just a bunch of stuff that has to get washed off. When you go, you're there. You've done something. What a way to look at death. Isn't that how you view things?
Definitely. Yeah. I think just participating in life review and life reflection and all of that can be very, what's so crazy to me is like you ask people, if you actually ask people like about deaths that they've experienced in their own lives. And I guess I would challenge your listeners to spend time reflecting on that, like deaths that they've actually experienced or deaths of the loved ones that they've experienced. And how do we talk about and think about the deceased and how we honor them? All of those things like are very inspiring usually and like lead to transformative change in people's lives. And they're very impactful experiences. Like people will change like their career or where they live or what relationships they have with people based on the stories of people who have died or the experiences directly of taking care of somebody who have died. So it's very much like part of the fabric of our being. It's just not talked about or thought about openly.
Well, that's one of the reasons we asked Charlotte to be here, because she's opening up the possibility to do that. Now, as I said, we have sponsors to the show. I wouldn't have them. We didn't think they're worth your time. Don't go away. There's more Charlotte, and she is such a joy to be with. Be right back after this brief message. Opportunity. What an opportunity. I'm going to use 2 4-letter words right now. Free gift. Free gift. Yes, you can have a copy of my best-selling book, The Joy of Living, How to Slay Stress and Be Happy, the ebook version for absolutely free. All you have to do is send an email to me, Barry, Barry, at barryshore.com, and in the heading, the subject line, just write, free gift. It's as easy as that. This is a life-changing, life-enhancing opportunity. Barry at barryshore.com. You'll be glad you did. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Free gift. Do it now. Take the action. Make it happen right now. Best wishes. Bye. Good day. Beautiful, bountiful, beloved immortal beings, and good-looking people. Maybe you're good-looking, so I was looking for and finding the good. We found good in abundance. Her name is Charlotte, Dr. Charlotte Grinberg. She is the founder of To Life, TOLAFE. Everything you want to know about her is in the show notes. Don't write anything down. Just share this with at least 5 people. You want to share with 50 or 100, and you probably do. At least 5 people, that we can touch 2.5 million people around the world, because this is the most important topic you could ever discuss. It's wonderful to discuss life and living long and living well, and everybody should, every moment, feel it. Death comes to everybody. How you approach it, how you internalize it, utilize and leverage in your life will actually be the most transformative part of you. So, Charlotte, I want to ask you a question. I want to offer you something, if you'd be so kind. I came up with an acronym for your name. Can I share it with you?
Yeah, I was hoping you would do that.
Okay, well, Charlotte is spelled CHARLOTTE. That's a challenge, wouldn't you say? Here we go. Charlotte stands for creating happiness, awakening resilience, loving openly, teaching transformation exists.
That's very impressive.
Well,
I love it.
that's who you are. You've been talking about transformation. You're about happiness. You're about loving openly. And you're so correct. Before we left to go to the commercial break, we were talking about thinking about and experiencing death from people that you may know, your own family and things like that. On a very personal level, as had been mentioned at the very beginning of the show, I was standing up in the morning completely healthy and hearty. In the evening, I was a quadriplegic. I was in a bed. I couldn't move for years. And I can tell you that for me, that's a near-death experience. The inability to move, to only have my mind. For some part of that time, I couldn't speak. I could only communicate by blinking my eyes. That to me was being dead, not functional. Now, thank God, my upper body is back. I now swim 2 miles a day, 6 days a week. I've been doing it for years. I can't get up from this chair because I'm still paralyzed from the waist down, but okay. So I've been through some stuff. I mean, I can urge people. I do this sometimes when I speak to groups. I urge people, if they can handle it, to lay down at night, close their eyes, be calm, arms at your side, legs, and just speak to your body and tell your arms you can't move. Tell your body you can't move. Tell your legs you can't move. And be that way for about 8 seconds, because you can't take much more than that. That's a near-death experience, and not to be nervous about it. So I'm sharing that with you because everything that you do and all of your work has to do with sharing with people that, as you say so elegantly, dying is a process. And it happens to everybody. So I'm going to tell you one quick story, and I want you to speak to it. I told you I learned how to swim. I was in the pool, and we had a special lane because they had special equipment, a Hoyer lift to get me in and out and things like that. So in a wheelchair, I was able to swim. And in the lane with me, in the special lane for the people with special needs, there was this wonderful woman named Aida. She was 95 when I met her. And she was able to walk. She wasn't swimming. But she was just there. And that was just great. After a few weeks, Coach started speaking and says, "Barry, I love your energy. Talk to me, help me." Okay, fine. I was privileged to know Aida until the age of 106. And I used to sing her to her birthday every year for 11 years. And in my book called The Joy of Living, I have 11 processes for living well. And the one that she likes the most was get out of your comfort zone. So I'm sharing that with you as a jumping off point, Charlotte. Tell us, how can people get out of their comfort zone, which to not talk about death, and not only talk about it and think about it in positive terms? Do you have a process that people can use to do that?
Yeah. I mean, one is just trying to have conversations with your loved ones, like really asking them, like, what are deaths that you experienced, like in your life? What was the impact that they had on you? Have you thought about your own like death and, what would be important to you at that time, or what you're afraid of or worried about, or what is a meaningful quality of life to you? What isn't? There are really good guides out there that exist to help people have these conversations. So that's one thing. Again, just trying to like normalize. In my family, we talk about these things all the time. I like my kids hear all the time me say to my husband, like, when you die, or when I die, or when we die, or it's just part of our vocabulary. Just like we talk about doing the dishes or doing the taxes, or it's just normal and comfortable.
Making sure that people aren't even afraid to use the term.
Yes.
Because we're surrounded by euphemisms. People don't die, they pass on. They, like you told me before, they disappear. Hello?
Yeah.
Now, thank God, most of the world doesn't live in a conflict zone where, unless you live in Chicago. And by the way, I'm not making fun when I say this.
Yeah.
It's difficult to think that in a city, we call it Chicago, Illinois, and in a city on any given weekend, there will be any number of people who will be shot to death. So that death is a constant in an area that is in the United States of America in the 21st century, that it's real. In other words, it's not going to be that there'll be a weekend without people getting shot or shot at or killed. It's so hard to understand that. So the people in that area, they see death as real, and they don't see it as a fun, not fun, a beautiful passage. They see it as ugly and raw. That's how people think of death, isn't it?
Yeah. It's different when I'm talking about, I'm talking
Right,
about sort of the natural dying experience.
What you want to get across to people is that's an aberration. We want to be bringing it into our lives in a way that becomes the garden.
Yeah. I think also, like, there are people who find immense value in being hospice volunteer, like actually going to, you can go through a training with a local hospice where you live and actually become a volunteer and sit with the dying or learn from the dying. So that's a common thing that people can do to have more exposure. And then to show up for people, like when they face a loss. Like, I think, again, we tend to retreat or feel awkward, don't know what to do, feel uncomfortable. But I think really showing up for people, like when they experience a death in their own life, if it's going to the funeral or finding time to grieve with them elsewhere, like just trying to lean in as much into these hard moments and difficult conversations for people.
Showing up. Isn't that a wonderful idea? In other words, like Aida said, get out of your comfort zone and don't think of you, think of the other. And that experience is transformative, isn't it?
Yeah. I try to show up for people all the time. Like, I know people are like, how do you have 5 kids? Like, you run a medical practice, like like you must have no time. But I'm so motivated to just show up for people, right? To be a good friend and be a good community member and be present for people, again, both through the good and the sadness, and to just show that I'm very committed to them and want to be a source of support and comfort.
So that's the ultimate SOS, source of support. I just made that up. You're
really good at this.
Be a source of support. By the way, it happened to me years ago. I had some dear friends. So they were 60. I was 40, 45 at the time. This goes back 30 plus years. And my friend called me up and he said, I'd like you to join us. We go visit old age homes. And we go and we sing songs and just to be with people on a Sunday morning. And we would go to 3, sometimes 4 old age homes, 30 minutes, 40 minutes at each one. And we did that. And I can tell you, Charlotte, for my life, that was transformative. I didn't know any of these people. It wasn't that I was visiting my aunts and uncles and grandparents. Just to show up for other people who are in the process of, on the way out, as we'll say, because we're in a nursing home, old age home, to go and be a source. I love this, SOS, source of support. They brighten, just like you did right now. They brightened.
Yeah.
You literally bring life to people by being involved. And I think that is the ultimate expression of what death is. It gets people involved, whether they want to or not.
Yeah. And I really, again, understand the finality of things. Like when whenever I go to like a friend's birthday party or even Thanksgiving or some event, I'm like, wow, this might be like one of the last like 50 times that we ever get together like this. And I say that to like really highlight how special this moment is. And people think they're like, oh my God, like, oh, that's such a downer.
There she goes again.
Yeah. But for me, it's such like an uplifting thing. It's like an uplifting thought that like, this is so special. Like this is such a moment that is important to our lives. And we should really cherish that.
So if I may put words in your mouth, by cherishing the moment, by cherishing life, you can even talk about death in a positive light, because we're in a moment now. used to be a thing called the Kodak moment. You're in a moment now. Use it, enjoy it, love it, celebrate it. You can talk about death because it's all part of it. We might not have this again. Oh, there you go, Charlotte, and say, yeah, you know something? We're going to sing another song. We've stopped singing. We're going to sing another song because we're so present. That is the beauty of death, isn't it?
Yeah. One of my first jobs right out of residency was taking care of patients with cancer who were hospitalized. And so many of those patients were dying. And a lot of the doctors and family members were just in denial about it. But my first boss said to me, he's like, it's a hard job, but every single day when I get home and I, get into bed and I hear my kids cry, like they wake me up in the middle of the night because he had young kids and I had young kids and they cry. He's like, I feel so grateful that they're able to do that. And that really always stuck with me because it's like, right, like just seeing all of that sadness again, like sort of on the flip side makes you just appreciate like any sort of signs and connections of life that you can have.
Oh, I love it. Appreciate every sign of life. And therefore death is a dying experience. And you can actually, for some people who are in the throes of death in the sense that they're in agony and pain, you can recognize, okay, this is their escape route. And the more that you are there as a source of support, SOS, you help that process. You lessen the pain. Am I correct in that? By some human being being present at somebody else's trauma, do you not lessen the pain and create more of a beneficial process?
Absolutely. I mean, that's the value with doulas. Like women are less likely to need an epidural, for example, during childbirth because of the presence and support of a doula. And so I do think I think deaths, I would say, and again, this is like anecdotally based on my experience, but I think deaths probably feel more chaotic and there's a lot more agony and there's a lot more like physical symptoms when there's actually a lot more underlying psychological distress and lack of closure and lack of acceptance of what's going on. Like you can feel people like fighting against what's happening, and that can manifest like in more anxiety and more pain. And so we have medicines for these things. Like we have tools to help people and to try to ease the process. But I do think like what I've seen is that when people feel more like spiritually at peace, emotionally at peace with their family and with themselves, like I do think that those death experiences overall tend to be more calming.
On that high note, I'm loath to say these words, however, they must be said. We're coming to a closure of our time together. I have 3 quick questions for you. Are you ready, Charlotte?
Sure.
Number 1, will you come back again?
Oh, sure. You help me.
Thank you. Number 2, Charlotte Grinberg, Dr. Charlotte Grinberg. You have 80 seconds only to answer this question. What is your most fervent desire?
I love my husband so much. I just like, my desire is to be able to spend time with him and enjoy him. And I feel like the luckiest person to be married to him. And just time with him and with our family is truly a blessing. And I always tell him like all good roads have led to him and from him. And so I guess it's a simple desire, but and it's one that I thankfully have access to on all days, but it's one that brings me the most joy.
Thank you for that.
Oh,
Number
of course.
3, may I give you a hug in front of 527,911 people around the world?
Sure.
Let me tell you what HUG stands for. Unlimited giving. 1, 2, 3. And you're listening to, of course, The Joy of Living with your humble host, Barry Shaw, the ambassador of joy, and our amazing guest, Dr. Charlotte Grinberg. And you remember, you're here because you love the 3 fundamental principles of life. Number 1, life. Your life has purpose. We lead a purpose-driven life. Number 2 happens. You go mad. MAD is a great acronym that stands for make a difference. Lead a purpose-driven life. You make a difference in the world. That means that death becomes part of your process of living. And number 3 is to uncover the power of the secrets of everyday words and terms. And the result is you'll be happier, healthier, and wealthier. www. What a wonderful world. Smile, seeing miracles in life every day. Or as my 8-year-old niece says, seeing miracles in everyday life. Create the kind of world you want to live in. Listen to Charlotte, causing rethinking, enabling all to excel. And you want to use the 2 most powerful words in the English language 3 times a day for the rest of your life, because you will be happier, healthier, and wealthier with them. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thanks stands for to harmonize and nurture kindness. Remember, kind, keep inspiring noble deeds. And we urge everybody, use 4-letter words. Remember, we live in the world of the positive, purposeful, powerful, and pleasant. So our 4-letter words are love, life, hope, play, free, give, swim, and tell the world to F you. Remember, add right away, capital N, capital N. So you point your finger and you tell that to your friends and family. Where'd you get that? I listened to Barry Shore. He had on Dr. Grinberg. Wait till you hear about death. Huh? Well, you got their attention. Now you can share with them the beauty of living and the source of being supportive. So a blessing from Charlotte and Barry. Go forth. Live exuberantly. Spread the seeds of joy, happiness, peace, and love. Go mad. Go make a difference. Charlotte, don't go away.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Joy of Living podcast. Now that's another step towards your healthier, happier, and wealthier life. Never hesitate to do good in the world, no matter what the situation. Join us for another upbeat discussion next time at barryshore.com. And be sure to leave a rating and subscribe to the show to get more conversations like this. And remember to share it with your family and friends too. See you on the next episode.